refrigerated. If you refrigerate it, you can get that down to like a month, but you should not just have an old bottle of vermouth. And most people who think they don't like drinks with vermouth in them are wrong. They are drinking old vermouth. They're trying to make it themselves, and they don't know what they're doing, and they're tricking
That's
themselves.
freaking hilarious. Okay, well that's going in the fridge.
Yeah.
No, so the thing is, the thing to know is that Alice doesn't know what she's talking about. Vermouth is disgusting and tastes like butthole.
You haven't had
recording,
good
by the
vermouth.
way.
I'll start
vermouth.
my
I'm
local.
tired of mixed drinks that have Amaros.
Mixed drinks are the ones that God
Cocktails,
doesn't
whatever,
care
I don't
about,
fucking
right?
care.
Like, okay, he doesn't want me to drink, fine. I think that God respects an Aperol spritz.
God does not respect. I fucking don't respect an Aperol spritz.
Well, you should, because they're
Alex,
delicious.
I'm 100% on board with you. I love vermouth.
Thank you. I love you too.
Get fucked.
I'm also fine with vermouth. I think we're 3-1 on this one.
Yeah, but the thing is, and I'll repeat this for the viewers. I'll repeat this for the viewers. I will. You're not. If you think you don't like vermouth, you're wrong. What you're doing is you're not refrigerating your vermouth. It's a fortified wine. It needs to go in the refrigerator. Otherwise, it will spoil within like a week. It'll taste bad.
Liam, FYI, I just wanted to fill you in. Since they're a little bit under the weather, I'm totally happy to take the lead storytelling. And you guys insert joke here as you go along. I found an amazing amount of original source material, including the original Interstate Commerce Report. So we're
beautiful.
Really well informed.
Yeah, if you feel comfortable and confident in doing that, yeah, that's fine. Knock yourself 100%. Out.
Cool.
Because I have just something
allergies?
Which is
you have allergies.
No,
allergies.
I'm actually sick.
Are you coming to the? Are you still coming out on Saturday?
Well, it depends on how sick I am.
Okay, that's fair. No, I'll give you a tug job. I don't really care.
Oh God.
What kind of tugboat? Steam or diesel?
No, not that kind of tugboat, but
it could be both. You could do it on a tugboat.
No. It's gonna be one of those glass-bottom gator boats.
It's a railroad tug.
There we go.
Yeah.
First class, more like first ass.
I mean, one of my favorite railroading terms of all is the manned helper service.
Which is the guy who sucks you off? Or?
I mean, yes, but also... so in really mountainous terrain, they usually pair a few locomotives at the bottom of a grade to shove a long train up a hill. Before there were remote control units, you would have to have a full crew stand in those helper locomotives, especially in the steam era, to shove the trains up a hill. And so that would be a manned helper service. You would be able to shove the trains up and down the hills and make sure they brake on their way down. And yeah, there's a place in Helper, Utah, where that was very famously done on the Rio Grande.
I misheard you for a second there, as there's a place in hell for Utah, which I'm possibly.
Yeah, that's
probably.
What I heard.
Yeah, I was about to say, Mormonism is a heresy.
I went on Brigham Young Money about this, and I had a great time.
Young Money.
Brigham Young Money, it's a great podcast. Yeah.
Great podcast.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, I am recording. We are good to go. Highball, as it were.
Yes. All right. Welcome to Well, There's Your Problem. It's a podcast about engineering disasters with slides. I'm Justin Rosniak. I'm the person who's talking right now. My pronouns are he and him. All right, go.
I am Alice Caldwell Kelly. I am the person who is talking now. My pronouns are she and her. Yay, Liam.
Go fuck yourself. Hi.
Go fuck yourself too, buddy.
Thank you. Oh, I missed you so much. I love you so much. Hi, my name is Liam Anderson. My pronouns are he, him, and number 2 Arizona lost to 15 seed Princeton, which I think is very funny. And we have a guest.
I'm Miles Callan, and he, they pronouns works good for me.
Nice.
Oh, that is juicy.
Buddy.
Let's get that phlegmy cough button in here.
That is juicy, my guy.
The worst part is where my throat is sore is just below where I'm able to clear it by coughing.
They put a sort of cough button on soundboards, and what that does is it boosts the microphone input so everybody can hear you coughing.
Oh, God.
Ah, God.
Everyone can experience my suffering.
Remember when you had COVID and you sounded like Jordan Peterson?
I very much suspect this is COVID round 3 based on how long this has lasted.
Oh, man.
So tonight, I guess we're talking about why the U.S. doesn't have high-speed rail. And it's because of this one incident in 1946. Yes.
You see here some train cars, but they're kind of on their sides and like spread out.
They only do that when they feel threatened, right?
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Well, yeah, they're not supposed to be like that.
So back in 1946, there was a train wreck on the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy, just outside Naperville, Illinois.
This would Are they going to get you for pronouncing it Quincy, first of all? Is it Quincy or is it Quincy?
It's Quincy.
Quincy is a suburb of Boston.
Okay, yeah. I've never been sure about this because I have just enough like reflected knowledge from Fallout 4 here, so I can't tell whether or not we're gonna.
Quincy is, like I said, the suburb of Boston. You may know Shocks, as we like to call him, Tommy from Quincy.
Yeah. All right,
so have him on a podcast sometime. But yeah, that's right. Today we're going to talk about the infamous Naperville wreck.
It's
actually it's not one of those wrecks that necessarily people remember, but it's infamous to us.
Yes, soon afterwards,
friendless nerds. Yes,
will be infamous to you. Slightly less friendless nerds after the following 4.5-hour presentation. But
everybody I know is sick.
Yeah,
we have to do. I'm not sick. I'm feeling good.
I also feel good.
Yeah,
the goddamn news.
You and I, we're immune. You know, the goddamn news.
Hey, you used my joke.
If you're just listening, you're unable to see the chyron on the side. This is a picture of Silicon Valley Bank, which we have subtitled in "Jump, you fuckers," and we hope that they do, of course. Mm-hmm. If you're not familiar, Silicon Valley Bank, 16th largest bank in the United States, became the sort of like go-to bank for a lot of Silicon Valley guys, a lot of hedge fund guys,
a lot of VC guys.
A lot of VC guys. I don't know why I said hedge fund. That's not true. A lot of VC guys. And all of those VC guys, they have a lot of money, and then they distribute it to companies that they think are going to create like Uber 2 or WeWork 2 or whatever. And those companies, which have like 4 guys who all wear hoodies to work, and like 3 of them are on visas, they suddenly have like $400 million in their bank account. And they're like, well, okay, we don't need a second bank account, right? Like the guy who gave us this $400 million has like banks at Silicon Valley Bank. Fucking Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, banks with Silicon Valley Bank. And unfortunately, but his wineries banked there. And unfortunately, Silicon Valley Bank was very, very heavily leveraged into one sort of narrow and very stupid kind of money, venture capitalists and their sort of like ghoulish projects. And then the Federal Reserve made the economy slightly more real. They kicked interest rates up a bit. And all of this shit fell over like instantly. The thing that was designed to sort of like, drive down wages and all of this other shit turned out, like everyone knew it was going to like take out a bunch of weak companies. No one knew, except for, us, anyone on the left, anyone who had been paying attention, that a bunch of really weak companies includes most of fucking like this field in Silicon Valley. And so the bank falls over, right? The bank falls over on Friday, and then the FDIC sort of takes it over, puts it into receivership. And now what Dark Brandon has done is a surprisingly radical move, which is, the crux of this is, like, with a fiat currency, money is money, right? It's worth the same everywhere. Except if it's in a bank account. And then it's sort of like a more complicated financial instrument, which has risk attached to it, and which might be worth more, might be worth less. Not anymore. Like,
sounded great.
Yeah. So like previously your holdings in bank account were insured up to $250,000 by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC.
Individual. I don't know if that commercial is. Yeah, I thought.
Yes, but then there's also a subsequent commercial thing on top of that for another $150,000.
Right, that's what I thought. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
it's been a long time since I took banking finance.
You would have to be very, very stupid to keep sort of more than that in one bank account as a company. Anyway, so yeah, that's gone now, because now the feds have just guaranteed all of the deposits of Silicon Valley Bank after a lot of like sweating and whining by like VC guys on Twitter. And so now your money is worth the same everywhere. And this is like a surprisingly large intervention, and hopefully it's going to stabilize things. Credit Suisse has collapsed on sort of a semi-related thing.
They are getting 54 billions from Switzerland Central Bank,
FINMA,
and
FINMA.
FINMA, and
why are they giving them goats?
Because shut the fuck up. And First Republic is getting $30 billion from, Jesus Christ, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and Morgan Stanley. And Yellen testified before the finance committee. It was like, everything's fine.
I mean, everything kind of is. Like, I wouldn't panic. I wouldn't believe people on Twitter who are telling you to go and like take money out of your bank account.
They've only borrowed $11.9 billion from the emergency loan program from starting on Sunday, which it's probably not that bad.
No, it's genuinely not though. But
the bulge bracket banks are gonna be fine.
Yeah. Frankly, thank God for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, WPA instrument. Like, without that, we would be in free fall.
Also, there's something annoying to me about people being like, why are people getting a bailout from the FDIC? I'm like, it's been around since since like the 30s. It's not a bailout. Like,
it's what it's for. It's what it's for.
Yeah, but, literally doing its job. Yeah.
I'll tell you who this is good news for is podcasters, because guess who banks with Silicon Valley Bank?
Patreon, allegedly.
Patreon,
I'm not sure that's true, actually. But yeah, so as soon as I knew that this didn't implicate us, I was happy. But I think the main thing here is that, like, on the one hand, this is like sort of a big centrally planned piece of like sort of Keynesianism, right? Is we're gonna keep all of this shit going in order to preserve the wider economy. What I would like to see, and what I think a lot of people increasingly would like to see, is a little bit less market, a little bit less Keynes in this Keynesianism, and the government deciding, hey, if we own this shit, maybe we should just operate it. Why do we have like private banking in the first place if we're going to have to take it over every time there's a crisis and it falls over because we don't actually have an economy based on building shit or trading shit?
Go figure, right?
Yeah. Just an idea, maybe. We just nationalize all of it.
Are you suggesting a third bank of the United States?
Yeah, and I think they should have a beautiful building that you should get to have to model in excruciating detail on City Skylines 2 when it comes out.
Agreed.
Right, yeah. I think it'd be fun to have a third bank of the United States, but go back to the old banking system where they issue Federal Reserve notes, which are exchangeable for privately pressed banknotes from private banks, and no one knows what anything is worth.
We'll do this. We'll do this even nicer. It'll be artisanally small batch printed on a printing press.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, my sort of like my California bug smell of like rosemary or whatever.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Ooh.
So, what happens when a locomotive gets tired?
Yes. In other news,
it is happening again.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we got to put the thing out. We got to do
at this point. Yeah, at this point, I'm like, we're just gonna have a segment on here that's just the weekly derailment.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
it'd be funny as a gag to rename the goddamn news the goddamn derailment of the week.
I like it.
So BNSF, the Burlington Northern Santa Fe, sometime late last night or early this morning, derailed a train on the Swinomish reservation, or Swinomish. No, it's Swinomish. Right? Yeah. This is a reservation. It's a Native American reservation in northern Washington. Right. This is near Anacortes, Washington. Or is it Anacortes? I don't know how to pronounce that.
That's okay.
Yeah. So this is sort of you can see here we've got 2 locomotives on the ground. There was another train car back here, which has since been re-railed and pulled away somewhere back there.
Whoa.
So this is on the reservation, but it is also next to the oil refinery that's on the reservation.
Let's go!
America is so cool.
Yeah.
I love that it's clearly like super marshy track as well, and it's probably like it'll be good for 25 miles an hour. Who cares?
Mhm.
And then it gets squishy, and GP39 and looks like a GP38-2 goes smoosh.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, this is what really freaked me out about I'll get to that in a second, but yeah, so what you can sort of see here is back here is a derail, right? That's a device to deliberately derail trains.
Well,
why would you do that?
That guy who 3D printed them as
yes.
Oh my god. No, this is much more extensive than that. This is actually part of a switch. This actually works as opposed to the portable derail, which even the real ones don't work.
Most of the time, no.
Yeah. So you do this because over here there's a swing bridge, which normally is locked in the open position because there's not that many trains. They close it for when a train comes. So the question here is, why did the train go off the derail when he's supposed to stop and get permission from the bridge tender before proceeding and confirmation that the bridge is closed? We don't know that yet, but it is kind of interesting to see. Okay, here's the result of a fail-safe, which is still catastrophic, but less catastrophic than the other option.
Better put a train on the ground than put a train in the water, right?
Yeah. Both crew members on this train were they got out uninjured. They were fine.
Oh, good.
Yeah, this happened twice on the Northwestern Pacific in California back in the 50s and again in the 80s, where this derail was not present before a swing span, or a lift span in this case, over the Brazos River. And both times, 2 diesel locomotives went in the drink. And the second time, there was a rail fan right there at the bridge as it happened and took pictures as it splashes into the water. That's absolutely fantastic. Spectacular. I'll put a link in the description.
Wasn't there also an incident where there was a lift bridge, and of course the counterweight comes down onto the tracks when it's open, and the locomotive just whacked into it
just
and then pancaked. Not a great situation.
They don't run trains so good here.
Yeah. Well, one thing I thought was interesting about this, especially after that article came out in the American Prospect yesterday, is this locomotive here. This is a GP30. It's been rebuilt into a GP39, but the body and frame of this locomotive were built when JFK was still alive.
The Kennedy administration.
Jesus.
Yeah, we really don't do it so well, Alice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
In fact, here is a picture of this locomotive in 1962, lettered for the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy. Which coincidentally is the railroad we will be talking about today.
Hey! But for bad
it's all held together. Beautiful.
Yeah. So this is an interesting derailment because you have a fail-safe worked, but why was the fail-safe needed? What happened there? It could be operator error, or it could be something weirder.
It was probably, it makes sense. Were they switching? Obviously, it's a local. So
it's a local train. There's a bunch of this track back here goes back to the oil refinery. They were coming out of the oil refinery, presumably with all the cars.
Wonder if it was foggy or there was some impaired clearance or something.
Could be foggy. Could be it was late at night, so everyone was tired.
Yeah,
it happens. Who amongst us has not derailed a train when they got sleepy?
Got called in with 2 hours notice.
Oh, yeah.
We were just about to go to bed. But yeah, so this is what happens when the crew is fatigued. Is that the train has to take a nap.
We've all been there. We've all been there. We've all thought, I'm gonna have a late night. Before I go to the bars, I'll take a nap.
Yeah,
and that's what that train did here. And that's okay.
The BNSF disco nap.
Keep working on yourself, girl. It's okay.
So, that was. Oh wait, in regards to that article from the American Prospect, that was about how railroads get around emission standards, and that's by just reusing old locomotives forever rather than buying new ones. To the point where, of course, now you can't buy a new locomotive, basically.
EMD stopped producing 4-axle locomotives with the GP60 in the 1990s. Think about how long ago the 1990s was. Well, maybe we shouldn't, but you get the idea. Nobody else has come out with a 4-axle locomotive that is a road switcher, that is not some horrible rebuilt genset piece of shit or some experimental thing that nobody bought. So think about that. Sure. The youngest locomotive is potentially as old or older than any of us.
Yes.
Cool. How fucking old do you? Okay. Yeah, don't answer that question. Yeah. Don't answer it. Oh, hell yeah. That's that juice.
Sure doesn't meet EPA Tier 4 regulations. Anyway, that was the goddamn news.
Okay, I have some news. I have some...
What?
So it's gone. It's gone.
Fred, no, I'm going. So you're just going to have to live with it. So 2 things to advertise, I guess. We never do this. No, you can't buy an ad on this show. These are favors. So 1, you can invest in WTYP fave, the Tropical Hockey League, if you've ever wanted to own your own tropical roller skate hockey team.
What?
Yeah, they contacted us. I'm doing this for them.
Okay.
Remember how we were going to buy a roller hockey team?
No.
You got to check the group chat more, Alice.
We weren't going to buy it. We were going to sponsor it.
Oh, were we? Oh, well, either one.
Well, there's your
guys.
puck.
Yes. It's a ball, I think. And number 2, friend of mine, Abigail Sweetman, has a Patreon where she's releasing a cookbook. She already has recipes out. It's called Feed Your Friends. You can Google search for Abigail Sweetman on Patreon. The recipes are super yummy. Go buy them or go subscribe to Patreon. Thank you.
How do I Google search on Patreon?
Or you Google search and find the Patreon
link. Mind, you know.
You know what? You guys
I'm the Google of the mind.
You know what? I'm glad you're sick, honestly.
For using my mind's Dewey Decimal System.
Yeah. You know, I'm honestly thrilled you're sick. It makes me happy that you're suffering. All right. Now that I've been allowed to talk, back to the show. Sorry for the fucking inconvenience. Did you play it twice to annoy me?
Yeah.
Great.
I love you so much.
Can I plug my Patreon too? I mean...
Yeah, do whatever you want. I don't give a fuck.
All right. I'm under the brand Interurban Era, and you can find me at patreon.com/interurban era, where I build scale models and make chill modeling videos for you guys to enjoy. So go stop by.
Yeah, okay, but how many like roller hockey or whatever teams do you sponsor?
0.003 roller hockey teams.
I really like that we were going to sponsor a roller hockey team. I think that's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We'll sponsor whatever you want if it's funny enough.
Yes.
Really can't stress that one enough.
And also, we have the money, which, you know, we may not. I don't know. Depends how this SVB thing goes.
Yeah. So
in a way, Joe Biden is sponsoring both a short track racing team and a roller hockey team.
Thank you. Yeah, you owe me after the bankruptcy bill of 2005, Joe. You motherfucker.
Very good. All right.
So, student loan forgiveness.
Yeah, sure. Let's do the podcast.
Yeah, sorry, everybody.
All right.
The thing we're here to talk about.
Let's start with the basics, shall we? 79 is a weird number. Why do most passenger trains go this speed in the United States now? This is part of this wreck and its legacy.
Yes.
Is it because it seems like the lowest number, the closest to 80, and the same way that stuff was 99 cents instead of $1?
Yeah, I bet there was a train going 80 miles an hour, and they were like, if we take it down by 1, it's safe.
Honestly, it probably has grounds in the way trains are scheduled as well. Like, you would have a train depart Union Station at 12:03, not 12 noon, so you wouldn't be confused whether it's midnight or midday. So this would probably follow the same logic of you're paying extra attention. It's not 80, which you could fudge up to 5 miles an hour in either direction. You're going 79, so you don't hit the emergencies by overspeeding. So in this case, this is on the BNSF, probably between Portland and Seattle. This is on the Burlington Northern Santa Fe. You can see the top one says T-79. That's for Talgo equipment. A whole nother, well, there's your problem episode.
That's a tilting train.
Yeah.
Which theoretically is supposed to be allowed to go faster.
Yes. Below that is P for passenger at 79. So similarly engineered, you're good to go. And
so a good thing we invested in that tilting equipment.
Yeah, all your tax dollars at work. And at the bottom is freight at 60 miles an hour. So this is actually a pretty nicely engineered stretch of track. There's a lot of places in the United States that are under 50 and a lot that are even under 25 miles an hour.
Boy, does that inspire confidence?
Oh,
My favorite is a stretch between the border at Rouse's Point and Montreal, which has one curve. It's 30 miles, and the speed limit is 25 miles an hour.
The good old Blue Ridge Parkway approach.
Yep. Miserable.
My favorite one of all is the approach to Portland Union Station goes across the Steel Bridge. And it's speed mile an hour. Do you guys want to guess what it is?
Let me get 10.
Lower.
2.
2?
It's 6 miles an hour to go across
6 miles an hour.
I was right the first time I had it.
But yeah,
Jeopardy rules or whatever. Is that Jeopardy? I don't know.
Whatever. No, that'd be Price is Right.
Price is Right.
Price is Right. I don't care.
So, how do they determine that number? The hint is corruption.
They paid off the guy doing the formula.
Yeah.
Hey kid, here's $79 if you catch my drift.
Nice exponent. Be a shame if something happened to it.
Right. So before the Naperville wreck, speeds around the United States, this is before 1946, mind you, speeds across United States rail service on main lines varied. But in some stretches, including on the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy, could get up to 110, 110 or even more. Most were often below 80, in fact. So this is not such a spicy, like, oh my God, giant conspiracy to slow down trains back then, at least. But it's something to keep in mind.
Claims to invent locomotive that's first to 100, can't drive it anywhere. Interesting.
This is to protect women's uteruses.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Otherwise they're flying out of there.
Yeah.
So
didn't even know I had one of those.
Right. So there's a couple of important things about speed. It's not like in a car where you want to get up to around 65 miles an hour and hold it and keep going. Typically, especially with passenger trains, you have to stick to a timetable. If you go too fast, you have to wait at the next station until you're on time. So it's irrelevant. So track speed is just the fastest safe along that route to maintain the timetable. Did you get scratched
by the cat, Roz?
No, I got bit by Pizza Boy.
Oh, are you okay?
Yeah. Ow. No, I did it again.
Put him out in the hallway.
No, he's doing it again.
Oh my God.
You're very silly.
He's fine. He's just antsy because he's never been fed before in his life.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah. You do laugh at him when he's hungry.
It's true.
Yeah. You say, ha ha, you have no thumbs.
He's got a whole hour and 12 minutes before he gets fed.
Oh, that's a sweet boy.
I know just how he feels.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, that's basically the difference between timetable speed and posted track speed. That's about as much as you need to know for layman's point of view. Signaling and safety before 1946 was a haphazard array of whatever a specific railroad, and believe me, there were dozens.
Really?
Yeah, there were dozens of Class 1s in the United States, not just 4 back then. So every mechanical department had their own idea of what they think they should use, and it was all
the different competing standards meme.
I was
right?
thinking the different banks issuing different currencies. Yeah,
yeah, pre and post grouping for the UK folk. It was absurd. And so certain railroads had money they could spend on safety shit, which included Pennsylvania, New York Central, Santa Fe, the CB&Q, the Illinois Central, any of the SP, UP roads as well. They all had money back then, at least, to spend on this stuff.
Can you guys hear that? I'm so sorry. My door's open. Do you hear what I believe is the now Disney movie Anastasia? In my
little bit, yeah.
That's Disney? Fucking hell, man.
It's Disney now.
That's
It was 20th Century Fox. Yeah. Yeah, 1 second. I'll be right back. Keep going, Miles.
Sure.
Good movie, though.
So,
I don't know. I think it's inherently reactionary.
Of course it is. It's like Rasputin used magic to make the Bolsheviks do the thing. But when I was a little girl, I wanted to be Anastasia when I grew up, right? And that's the only Disney-esque movie that I had that for. So it still holds a place in my heart.
I can't believe my wife doesn't respect my recording time.
So
becoming a wife guy is difficult, for anyone.
Yeah, being a wife guy is difficult when your wife has such terrible goddamn taste in movies.
You're not married yet.
It doesn't matter.
That's your common law wife.
I'm not doing a fiance guy. I'm not being that fucking dude.
Fix it again, Tony, the wife. Oh no, fiance. I thought you said fiat guy. Never mind.
I am fiat kind of a fiat guy. Yeah, fiat wife. Uterus breaks down by the side of the road a lot.
I'm sorry, your wife is rusted.
We have to tow her uterus back to the Italian garage. The uterus garage.
The worst part about having a fiat wife is the Soviet Union has copied your wife in a way that is
well, she's very beautiful,
but slightly more resilient. Yeah.
Except their wife is made out of rust.
Yeah, because they used Soviet Union steel secondhand in the 60s and then loosely screwed it together by communists.
Yeah. Actually, I've been sleeping with a Trabant this entire time.
Anyways, so
just reminded of I forget which podcast that Nate Bethea was on describing the acronym for Dodge.
Oh, Dick on Dick Gay Entertainment. Yeah. That was Trash Future. That was Trash Future when we discovered homophobic truck owner memes. And it was actually Dodge stands for Dick on Dick Gay Entertainment, or GMC stands for Gay Men's Cocks, and there's a bunch of memes that are hey, sorry, you can't park your Ford truck out here in case people think it's a gay bar. It's so juvenile a homophobia that it becomes funny again.
Amazing. So, signaling and safety before 1946 was a haphazard array of railroad-specific signaling and stopping ways. You had two types of signals: semaphore, the little waggy hand one, and searchlight or color position light, whatever involves a stoplight-esque signal. Beyond that,
Miles.
Yes.
Question. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of echo from you. Are you sure you're on the right microphone? Do you want to
There's a lot of echo from someone.
I'm not getting echo. Okay. I moved my mic. Is that better?
No, I don't think it's you. Miles, it's only when Miles is talking.
I've got headphones on.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't understand why that would be so, unless it's maybe drawing from the wrong microphone. Do you have a webcam mic on?
Yeah, no, I'm using a webcam mic right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, fine.
Well, the echo is gone now, so.
I wonder if it was me, in which case I apologize. My mic, I realized, was super close to my headphones.
Oh.
I don't worry too much.
Yeah, I'm not. Okay. I never do.
Yeah, so you had searchlights, you had semaphores. You had, sometimes you had derails like we saw in the news article to protect sidings and other things from overruns. Sometimes they would install a switch that immediately went into the ballast for that on certain operations. You see that a lot.
What does that mean?
You see that a lot in Japan. So, imagine a siding with switches on either end. But right before the switches that enter the main line, there are two more switches to derail the train in either direction to prevent head-on collisions into the sidings for each.
Okay, thank you.
So,
cool. So it's total. Just you get to go on in the forest now, or whatever.
You just go over here for a minute, right? Mm-hmm. I'll deal with you when I can deal with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm confident that actually saves lives. It seems like it would be a very good way to avoid a cornfield meet, which is the next thing we should talk about. So, in classic railroad slang, a cornfield meet is typically when two locomotives run head-on into each other in the middle of a cornfield.
That's what happened in Greece most recently, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
it's more of an olive grove.
Yeah, you did that. Yeah, you already made that joke. Don't worry.
Yeah, but this is a different episode.
Normally what happens is people only listen to one and then never another one, which is something we're really trying to boost on this one. 34 minutes in.
Yeah.
So basically, those were ways that you could prevent disaster, more or less, in 1946. Since then, other modern technologies like positive train control, automatic train stop, which was pioneered in the 1920s and we'll talk about later. but more or less, this is the same thing. Train runs red signal, automatically throws it into emergency, is basically the logic circuit for that. So you run a red light. Imagine driving a car, you run a red light, and automatically your car's computer slams on the brakes with a full brake application.
Yeah.
That's how it works. All right, cool. Next slide.
Should do that. Should make that real.
What is a streamliner?
Why are you saying it like a Nazi, man?
Because it is bright and shiny, just like the glory. No, never mind.
Jesus! Miles!
I was building a very normal train, and then ich habe diese Zug fucking designer. Words. I don't know how to say the past word is called designed, or indeed what the verb for designed is. So
designing.
The flying hamburger German, was one of the first streamliners.
So so basically, wind splitting, as it was known around the turn of the century,
that sounds
was
horny.
the basic idea to reduce friction through the air, as you talked about in your F-104 episode. It had both obvious aesthetic benefits of looking really cool, but it also helped moderately, very marginally, with fuel efficiency and other things. You're looking at the Burlington Zephyr, what is far and away the most famous of the firsts. While there were many earlier designs, including streamlined steam locomotives, the McKean motor car, which was an early wind splitter design, and wooden and steel interurban electric trains that had aerodynamic noses attached to them. This is the one that captured the world by storm. They made a film about it, the first version of Silver Streak in 1934, not starring Richard Pryor. It went on a tour all around the country. This particular engine, the Pioneer Zephyr, which you're looking at right now, set brand new speed records well above 110 miles an hour for diesel trains, and to this day holds the Denver to Chicago speed record, which remains unbroken today. It was an immense zeitgeist. Many other railroads copied. Some had exact duplicates, like Boston and Maine. They had the Minuteman. But the Q was basically the only railroad that rostered precisely this type of equipment. The advantages of the streamliner design, especially here, is that it is a diesel multiple unit, which means the front blank area behind the 3 windows where the railway post office are, or in front of it, there's a 6-cylinder Winton 201 distillate engine that runs on grain alcohol. I kid you not diesel.
Brother.
Yeah, it's cool. It runs clean. It ran really well.
Grain alcohol.
They were super reliable, amazingly. And then down underneath, it went to the single truck in the front, which had 2 traction motors, electric traction motors. So much like a diesel electric locomotive is today. These were married, part of a married pair. You can see that they're held together with Jacob's bogies between each car versus having 2 sets of trucks underneath each car. It reduced maintenance and allowed it to accelerate and decelerate faster and more efficiently. This exact engine you can go visit in the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. It is unbelievably gorgeous, both inside and out, and I highly recommend going to see it. Okay, next slide. Okay, so by 1946, the idea of streamliners had matured to the point where that single diesel multiple unit wasn't going to cut the mustard with longer trains. So they went to EMD.
How much longer are trains getting at this point? We're talking that's a factor of 2 or 3, or it just depends?
Heavyweight cars, which we'll talk about later, there were longer trains that could go into the 20 and 30 car consist length sometimes. Often they would be broken down into second and third sections, which we'll also talk about later. So 10 to 15 cars is typically how long a consist, a steam-powered or early diesel-powered streamlined train would be.
The Zephyr was the abnormally short one. Even back when the Pioneer Zephyr was built, your typical train was much longer than that passenger train.
So they went back to EMD. By the way, Bud, our hero, and EMC, or eventually became EMD, built the Zephyr. This is an EMD E5A, the only type only rostered by the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy E3s and E6s, which look similar, were rostered by other roads. This is the only one that has a full stainless steel outer frame and the only one with fluting. It's unbelievably gorgeous. These were about, I think, 1,600 horsepower each, and you can see there's a B unit, which has a no cab, which is behind it. These will be paired together in many different combinations of sets, one of which is ABBA, for your Swedish music fans there, to pull increasingly longer or shorter passenger trains depending on the tonnage. So you'd stick one engine if it was a short train, or up to 6 or 8 units if it was a super long train. This beautiful E5 hauled the train of the ill-fated wreck. You can also visit the last E5 ever built at the Illinois Railway Museum in Union, Illinois. So let's go on to the Exposition Flyer.
I was just going to say a fun fact about the nose of this thing. This is the only of the many locomotives which shared a similar sort of Art Deco streamlined nose like this one. This is the only one that's entirely made of metal because they paid extra to get it done that way, so they'd get the stainless steel look. All your other like E units and F units, they're only partially metal. They got a frame underneath, and then these sort of nice curves and stuff are all done up in Bondo.
What?
Welded steel plates.
Motherfucker, what?
Yeah. So it was welded steel plates like a card modeling kit, and then they would smooth all the joints with Bondo after they ground the welds.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. I love trains.
Yeah.
That's why they're all painted, so you can't see the Bondo.
Yeah, quite literally. It's like modern airliners.
Oh, you imagine the amount of Bondo on those things? My God.
Be funny if they actually put Bondo on airliners. I'll buff out 600 miles an hour.
Yeah, Ryanair.
Right? They're using hot glue. They can't afford Bondo.
Glue. Yes, but very hot glue. That's how you know it's safe.
Yeah.
The hottest glue. All right. So let's talk about the Exposition Flyer, which was the train that it was the train that was involved in this wreck in 1946.
About to say the Exhibition Flyer is the one for that's the swingers train.
Oh baby.
Painting over this big thing of Bondo with a giant pineapple.
It's a whole nother meaning to buffet lounge.
Oh God.
Oh, come on. That was actually very good. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
You disgust me.
So here's a timetable from the time in which the Burlington was running this train, and here's a picture of the Exposition Flyer basically around the date that it ran. You can see behind the two gleaming E5s, there's a bunch of older 1920s era heavyweight baggage cars, mail express cars, and other things. And then towards the back, there's some more streamliney, recognizable stainless steel cars, usually built by Budd, or Pullman Standard, or American Car and Foundry. So why was the Exposition Flyer? Why did it exist? It was designed to connect Chicago with San Francisco, and they were holding the 1939 Golden Gate International Exposition, so it was a way to get from here to there. We have to talk about, real quick, so today on Amtrak, you would take the California Zephyr. Same route. Back then, there was so much demand for passenger that you would run more than one section of a train. So you would have a train that you would get on at, say, 8:05, and that was the advance section. So it's a whole train that runs ahead of schedule that you jump on. Then there was the 8:30 train, which would be the advertised Exposition Flyer, for instance. Then, if there was more demand, you would run second, third, and fourth sections, which were identical trains spaced out in time. Same day, same departure, same arrival, all perfectly engineered to get you there on time without having to gouge like airline fees, increasingly more expensive things. You would just get on one of the sections and be there. So that's important for the later in the story. The Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy, just after World War II, experienced the height of its tonnage in passenger car and freight tonnage mileage. The railroads were in better condition after World War II than they will ever be. The track mileage per ton mile was insane at that point. All the stuff was hauled by extremely powerful, extremely beautiful equipment, honestly. And the network of passenger service the CB&Q provided was one of the most extensive in the country, serving tiny towns with little doodlebug motor cars all the way up to the gleaming Zephyrs. So let's go to the next slide. But it wasn't just the Chicago, Burlington, Quincy. The Quincy did not go all the way to San Francisco, please. It collaborated with two other railroads to get all the way to San Francisco. The Rio Grande traded off in Colorado and went through the Rockies and not around them. And then in Salt Lake City, traded over the entire train consist minus the locomotives in both cases over to the Western Pacific, who took it across the Nevada desert, over through Feather River Canyon, which is a gorgeous way to get through the Sierras, and down into the Tidewater leading to San Francisco Bay. It ended in the beautiful Mole, which is a large dock where you would connect with a ferry that would take you right to downtown San Francisco from Oakland in like 12 minutes. It was fantastic. You can see here, this is actual promotional material from the exposition flyer in the era in which we're looking. You can see the happy, smiling sun guiding this steam-hauled passenger train all the way from beautiful Chicago to wonderful San Francisco. And you can see the egregious use of too many typefaces on one piece of marketing material.
It's very busy.
I mean, honestly,
Leave old man winter. Ice and snow disappear like magic when you go west on the exposition flyer, the speedy scenic route to sunny California.
Oh, no change of cars. Standard and tourist Pullmans. Lounge car for all sleeping car passengers. Luxurious reclining chair cars. All air conditioned. Delicious meals at sensible prices. Hostess. Let's say hostess nurse service.
Yes, in case you were sick.
This is definitely a swinger thing. This is a swinger thing.
I show me your mommy milkers is what I'm saying.
Christ. So this arrangement worked extremely well and would continue on with the Western Pacific, Rio Grande, and CB&Q California Zephyr after the exposition flyer was canceled many years later. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, here's
Folks,
some
if
more.
you think we're flying through these slides, don't worry. I just checked and there's 40 of them.
Cool.
Yeah, but we'll get through them quick. Here's some more beautiful material showing Western Pacific steam locomotive hauling ass through the desert, presumably. And I found these wonderful matchbooks that have these beautiful typefaces on them.
That's really cool.
Now, let me make a distinction.
This is something the noir detective finds on your body.
Yes.
Free pillows. This is a swinger thing. They are sucking and fucking on the on the exposition flyer.
So like here's an important distinction.
Flyer.
Whoa.
God damn it, you beat me to it.
Well done.
You want the
I have a very
news drop
sexy
again?
disorder. What do I call it, Kiff?
Sexlexia.
Lexia.
Yeah.
No extra fare. Wow.
Yeah. There's a distinction that should be explained. The Pullman company used to gouge customers with Pullman fare, which was more expensive but offered delightful things like, wonderful bedding and actually comfortable beds and free meals aboard the train. Like, it actually was worth the money, but it was more expensive by a considerable margin. So one thing you have to realize with privately owned passenger service versus today's nationalized Amtrak service is that a lot of trains often would be kept within a single railroad. It was not uncommon to have railroads cooperate like this for the exposition flyer or the California Zephyr later on. But now that Amtrak has nationalized the system, this is no longer necessary. So let's get on to the next slide. So here's the route map real quick. You can see Chicago on the right-hand side, and you can see San Francisco on the left. And it goes rather conveniently sweeping through. It is definitely not that straight or sweeping, believe me.
But we got sort of a Chicago to New York electric airline situation here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But the simplified map actually does a pretty good job. So you can see what happens. I believe the things circled down there are where the crew change points and the railroad change points are. So you can kind of get an idea. The three circles there are basically in the center of the map is where the CB&Q hands it off to the Rio Grande. And then that little hot dog shaped thing in Salt Lake is where the Western Pacific would hand off the train. So let's go to the next slide. But this is what you're actually going to see. This unbelievable World's Fair, which was a perfect complement to the New York World's Fair, basically. A lot of people went to both while it was open. Immense amounts of people went to go see both of these. Millions and millions of people. This was built out in the middle of San Francisco Bay on a fill, and it had a very particular type of architecture that was developed precisely for this event called Pacifica-style architecture, sort of, how shall I say it, Pacific Rim meets Art Deco. Very beautiful, but it didn't stick, so this is one of the only places on Earth you can see that version of the architecture. The tower featured in the flyer there was demolished, but the beautiful administration building, little horseshoe-shaped thing in the center of the image, and the 2 seaplane hangars still exist today. The rest has been wiped.
Imagine getting a seaplane to this, though.
You could.
Fun.
A lot of people. The Pan Am terminal was here, and also in Alameda, so you could take a Boeing 314 Flying Clipper all the way from anywhere in the Pacific to here to go look at this beautiful Golden Gate International Exposition.
I've never heard the Tartarian architecture people talk about this one.
Yeah.
It's a cool one.
It's 1939. It's June 1939. You are getting a flying boat to go see this shit. Everything is going to be fine forever. It's the end of history, brackets 1939 edition.
Yeah.
I was about to say that depression was almost winding up. And
as long as you're not paying attention to the news from Europe at all,
it's over good, there right?
Though. Yeah, it was a very hopeful event, as you might imagine. Most World Fairs tend to be, regardless of macro political events. But yeah, this one was a uniquely amazing one. I really have to say they did a great job. In the next slide, we'll see how the island was built. This could be its own, well, there's your problem episode, because it's now radioactive thanks to some fun stuff that happened in the Cold War. And it was completely hydraulically dredged with that dredger you see in the upper right, where they would just
like
basically...
the Mark Twain steamboat.
Yeah. All the dredgers, even until today, look like that in the Bay Area. If they aren't the regular crane type that has the big clamshell bucket, it's one of these guys. They're fantastic. But yeah, they just sucked up the sand and presumably flora and fauna on the bottom of San Francisco Bay and pooped it out to create Treasure Island.
Pooped it out.
Cool.
In the next slide, we can see, this is just a timetable. You guys, if you really care about timetables, guys, you can pause this episode and look at it, but it's not essential. And then some of the other beautiful scenery you roll through the beautiful Rocky Mountains there. Both these pictures are of the exposition flyer in the steam era, when it was hauled with steam locomotives, including this gorgeous Rio Grande steam locomotive through this spectacular scenery. And then in our next
there was
slide,
a Missouri Pacific section as well from St. Louis.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. A lot of connecting sleepers and stuff to kind of tee into the service so you can get where you need to go. And then in the next slide, so dieselization occurs right around World War II. A lot of Western roads, because they did not have access to clean water, I mean, we're not talking about polluted water, we're talking about availability of water trackside. So the War Production Board heavily leaned towards giving diesels to Western railroads that ran through deserts and other dry territory. The Rio Grande was a good example. The Santa Fe, the prime example of this. And you can see these beautiful EMD FTs pulling the exposition flyer through Colorado. Dieselization also had a large impact on, obviously, how fast the train could run. Now that you don't have to stop for coal/oil or water, you could have crew changes be much wider in gaps.
A fantastic photo.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, isn't it? And I love that early Rio Grande scheme. At any rate, it allowed for a much tighter, faster schedule. People were happier. There was less soot coming in through the windows. It was altogether a net improvement for your average passenger. Even if it was less exciting than being behind a steam locomotive, it was definitely better for operations. And then in our next slide, we'll bring the two together. Here's the Expedition Flyer hauling its train behind a pair of E5s. This was a couple years before, but take a real close look at this because this is a very important slide in this whole story. So you can see right behind the two gleaming locomotives is an express box car where you would have
just a regular shitty box car. Incredible.
Yeah, you know how you have aerodynamics? We're going to fuck all of that, you know?
Well, absolutely that. But cool thing about this box car, so there's a difference between an express and a regular. The express ones have high-speed trucks, and they also have steam through lines for the heating of all the passenger cars. So they were specially built for this kind of thing. They also, I think, have, in most cases, heavier underframes to handle all that weight going through them. Right behind it is a couple of baggage cars and a mail storage car. Then a couple more baggage cars. A railway post office where they sorted mail en route. In the 1946 consist, there was an express refrigerator car, then two more baggages, two coaches, one dining car, a parlor lounge, and a final coach on the rear. I have to say, this picture is spectacular. I don't know who had the foresight to take this.
This is honestly very sick.
Yeah.
Sick in a good way. Sick as in good, not sick as in bad.
Some of these cars are even air conditioned.
Ooh. It should all be, actually. Every human.
I really like the 1910s car. And then boom, stainless right here. Right smack dab in the middle.
I'm going to say this. I do not think this car is air conditioned.
Which one?
No, that's the suffer box.
That's scum class.
You pay your ticket by having your face spit on.
This was built as an 80-seat car, but it has 108 seats now.
So the fun thing about heavyweight cars is the clerestory roof. So you can see in the car to the right of that, it has air conditioning because it has a smooth, roundy roof. Yeah. That one next to it that we were originally talking about doesn't. And you can see that by the black line above separating the roof in half there. It's an important distinction we'll talk about later. But by 1946, the entire consist was air conditioned. So you can notice also that it's a mix of lightweight and what are called heavyweight cars. So there's a difference we'll talk about later, but it is important in how this train wrecked. All right. Yes. So this is a different sort of transition era, a transition era of different railway cars, not necessarily steam to diesel, but lightweight versus heavyweight. Now, the Expedition Flyer has a troubled history.
Your echo is back a little bit.
Yeah, it's really quite bad.
Yeah.
How's this?
No, that's no better.
I'm really not getting it. That's weird.
I was getting. Well, then maybe it's Liam.
It's been bad for me the whole time. I have no idea.
Is this any
better? It's been coming in and out for me.
I have moved my headphones from my mic about now. I'm closer to 2.5, 3 feet. Is that better or worse?
Miles, say something.
Something.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't hear an echo there.
Okay.
Not sure.
Yeah, who knows?
I'm so sorry if it's me. I
wouldn't.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Fix it in post.
So this wasn't the first time the Expedition Flyer wrecked. Let's take a look at the first time this happened. Next slide.
Hi, it's Justin. So this is a commercial for the podcast that you're already listening to. People are annoyed by these, so let me get to the point. We have this thing called Patreon, right? The deal is you give us $2 a month, and we give you an extra episode once a month. Sometimes it's a little inconsistent, but, it's $2. You get what you pay for. It also gets you our full back catalog of bonus episodes, so you can learn about exciting topics like guns, pickup trucks, or pickup trucks with guns on them. The money we raise through Patreon goes to making sure that the only ad you hear on this podcast is this one. Anyway, that's something to consider if you have $2 to spare each month. Join at patreon.com/WTYP pod. Do it if you want. Or don't. It's your decision, and we respect that. Back to the show.
During its decade of operation, the Flyer had enough wrecks that it became known in some circles as the Explosion Flyer.
Oh, that's not nice.
You know it's good when you're getting a derisory nickname, you know.
Yes.
Okay, let me see if I can do this in my 30s radio announcer voice.
Yeah.
Three killed in head-on collision. A little after 10 in the night of September 22nd, the engineer of Western Pacific's crack exposition Flyer looked down a stretch of track near Pleasanton, California, and saw the most horrifying sight that can meet a trainman's eyes. There was not many yards away loomed the giant shape of a deadhead, an unattached freight locomotive, hurling him down the single strip of track. Both engineers threw on their brakes. Passengers on the exposition Flyer, an hour out of Oakland, were jarred from their seats. An instant later, both locomotives met head-on. A hurricane of escaping steam roared into the cab of the Flyer, suffocated and scalded to death the imprisoned engineer and fireman. Both engines left the rails in twisted agonies of hot metal, dragging them, the baggage car, and their two passengers. The Flyer's baggage man hurled clear through the front end of his car into a litter of sheared steel. Died in the hospital a few hours later.
This like Wire reporter or whatever missed his calling as a Norwegian black metal lyricist.
Really? Only these 3 trainmen were killed. 12 other persons, 9 of them passengers, were injured. The engineer of the freight locomotive had managed to jump after applying the brakes and escaped along with his firemen. Neither could explain the accident. Only official comment was made by a division superintendent on the line as, "Evidently," he said, "somebody made a serious mistake."
A boo-boo has occurred.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There was a boo-boo involved incident.
So yeah, that's a cornfield meat, folks. It doesn't get any more gruesome than that.
Corn or field or meat than that.
The engineer was involved in an oops type situation.
Yeah.
They call it a cornfield meat because that's what you get turned into when the locomotive hits you.
Cornmeal.
Yeah.
Corn-fed.
Cornfield meat.
So let's go on to the reason the episode exists. 44 dead, engineer held, says the newspaper today.
By whom? Like in someone's arms? Like for comfort? Or?
Yes.
So they basically slapped handcuffs on him in the hospital, more or less.
Cool. Okay.
So Justin, can you read the Fern Heft one? Center top.
Fern Heft, a reporter for the Naperville Sun, who was at her home a block away from the scene, said bodies literally were squeezed from the windows of the last coach. Miss Hoft said she was leaving for her office when she heard the crash, which sounded like a big explosion, followed by a lot of smaller explosions.
Wow.
Yeah, she didn't really have the sort of Norwegian black metal gift of lyricism. I was
about to say a large boulder,
like a train crash.
A small boulder the size of a large boulder.
Yep. Exactly. But yeah, it was plastered all over, predictably all over the newspapers the next day. Sensationalist writing abounded. If you want to pause the video and look at some of them, I think they're clear enough to read, but a lot of them were pretty gruesome, honestly. Let's go to the next slide. But what actually happened? So a train 3 minutes ahead of it had stopped because there was an undercarriage issue. So they noticed some debris flying from underneath the car and slammed into emergency.
You see on the second picture here, the train has just kind of devoured the train in front of it. It's like, delicious train. Nom, 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 nom.
Exactly. So because they were so tightly scheduled, just 3 minutes apart.
Open the car to get the delicious cornfield meats inside.
Exactly. Because they were just 3 minutes apart, the flagman had to jump on the ground and did not have time to go the required distance to properly flag down the train behind it. So it ran into the...
Hold on. Are we getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here?
How so?
Why was the train 3 minutes ahead of the other train?
Signaling and how shall I say it? Scheduling. So
yeah,
the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy was actually quite good at running its railroad. It was confident that 3-minute headways for large and heavy passenger trains like that were acceptable, and honestly, millions of passenger miles for decades before this proved that it was all right.
It's precision scheduling. What could go wrong?
Yeah. In a way, yes. Timetable train order in this case, but very much the same thought. So it was acceptable. There's an important part of why this wreck occurred in the first place, and the engineer of the train that rammed the rear of the first train was not paying attention. He blew through a red signal. There were no automatic train stop or any other forms other than line-side traffic lights, if you will, line-side signals. So by the time he had reached he went through a yellow and didn't notice it. He went through a red, which is about where the middle of that thing is. And by then it was too late. Now, much like a stoplight on a road, you have to be stopped right at the red. But of course, he was already going over 40 miles an hour by then. He applied some of the train brake, but didn't throw it into emergency, and it rammed into the last few cars of the train.
What I was trying to get at here is the exposition flyer today was very crowded. So they ran the advanced exposition flyer 3 minutes before the regular exposition flyer, which is why these trains were so close together. And this is not very far out of Chicago Union Station at all. These are both westbound trains. Important context here for why they're running these trains so close together at high speed.
Yes, and perfectly put.
Yeah.
So let's talk in the next slide about flagging. No, it is not gay hanky code, although
I was about to make the joke, you're flagging down the fucking Swingers Express.
Exactly.
You have like a black handkerchief in your right hand pocket. Yeah, sure.
So without getting into minutia, basically, if trains stop, a brakeman on the rear end of the train hops off with a flag or a red lantern and walks at least a quarter mile or more down the track. What the hell
is a red flag?
It's literally a flag that is red.
Blood play.
No. It's fisting, apparently.
Oh, you mean in the hanky code? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Because obviously, if it had been a yellow flag, I'd be like, oh, okay, he's telling the train he's at a piss. But like, I see.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So, yeah, typically, if you were running 3 minutes apart, this would be a totally fine thing. He could walk the distance, flag down the train stops, everybody's alive. But because they were running such a tight schedule, it didn't work quite that way. You can see on the right, there's the actual prescribed rules in the General Code of Operation book about how to flag. If you want to really dive into that, you can pause and take a look.
What I'm more interested by is that on the left here, we see the guy's uniform, and he appears to have like service stripes, which I know railroads ran on sort of like paramilitary lines, but that's really something.
Yeah, so those were typically, I believe, awarded for years of service versus valor or whatever.
Yeah.
So that guy probably I can't see the pips, how many there are, but I'm sure
he's got 3 service stripes, so like 15 years maybe, 30. Which is a lot of fisting.
Probably 30, honestly.
Oh.
Yeah, he's an oldie. But most of these people were lifers. I mean, in this case, some of the people on board were lifers, but they didn't know it yet.
Oh boy.
Yeah, exactly. So let's take a look at the before and after of what happens when a streamlined E5 locomotive runs into the back of a passenger train. You have a horrific slice of bacon out of the conductor's side. So keep in mind that trains, the driver's side is on the opposite of American automobiles. So the engineer's side is ostensibly okay, although the glass shattered, and it wasn't FRA safety glass at that point, so big glass shard.
Oh no, yeah. But this other guy has had a train through the face.
Yeah,
it's not train through the face.
So you can see the front truck is gone. The ICC report shows that the truck basically yeeted from underneath the locomotive.
Oh, tactical term?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Era-appropriate railway terminology right there. But you can see the immense damage that locomotive is. Although, comparatively, think about it, that's not too bad from a front-end wreck perspective. Rear end,
we've done stuff with Gareth before about crashworthiness, and one thing I've learned from that is that the integrity of the outside of it matters very little if everyone on the inside is corned beef.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Big, very rigid sort of tank around which, a bunch of shards of glass and like other train are like flying around.
So here's an important public safety announcement to use for this wreck. The engineer instructed the brakeman in the locomotive to jump. He jumped and he died.
Ew.
So he did not survive. He was trying to save his life and it didn't work out. So just be careful. Don't jump off of moving equipment, especially not above 5 miles an hour.
Unless you're a Wall Street banker, in which case do it faster.
Yeah, and I feel like sort of Scylla and Charybdis at this point, right? Like, do you want to die jumping or do you want to die getting a train through the face?
Didn't the engineer and fireman survive, though?
One of them did. One of them didn't. So we can go to the next slide. I wrote in the description here, opened like a fucking Hot Pocket.
Is that how you open a Hot Pocket? You just dive in sort of like nose first?
Absolutely.
Oh, I eat it. Yeah.
The only way to get third-degree burns.
Have you
horrible
ever eaten,
burns, yeah.
Have you ever eaten a Hot Pocket, Alice?
No, never. We don't... The closest thing in terms of temperature is, I would say, Pop-Tarts, which we do have, and manage to get the sort of like 500-degree heat on the inside, room temperature on the outside sort of vibe.
Okay.
So this, the E5 rammed through the rearmost coach here. These cars are 85 feet long, and there's probably only 15 feet of that car left. You can see it completely peeled away. It's pretty horrific by any standard. Obviously, most of the deaths that occurred, we'll go into the numbers in a little bit, occurred in this car.
Oh, yeah, you're soup. Yeah, you're sort of like now a coating for the front of the locomotive,
Yes.
Yeah, pretty horrific. Other people, of course, an immense amount of people were injured on both trains, and other deaths occurred throughout the consist, but the bulk of them were in this car, horrifically enough. So let's take a look at the next slide. This is probably the most spectacular picture of all. This is an aerial shot that shows exactly what happened and how it happened. You can see the lead locomotive is completely buried in the center of the frame underneath all those passenger cars. You can also see the lightweight coach, the Budd stainless steel car, on its side and mostly ripped in half in the center, the lighter colored car, and a heavyweight car shoved off to the left side as well. You can see what little is left of the car the lead locomotive plowed into there. But also, like, look at all of the crowd that came to see this. It's kind of fascinating in its horror.
Yeah, the whole town turned out to see like how many people had been turned to gravy.
Yeah. So there were 45 deaths at the end. 125.
We just didn't
injured.
we didn't believe in controlling scenes at that point. You wanted to show up, you show up.
Whatever, man. We'll deal with
to say.
One of the things.
Come look at the horrible, horrible thing that happened.
Yes.
Pry some rings off somebody. Yeah. We're not going to stop you. Whatever. There's
like
one
souvenir. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the accounts in the paper described the bodies being lined up like matchsticks.
I need to move this cat.
Oops. Let's get back to the major wreck picture.
Where were we?
Up. There you. Oh,
there we are.
There you are. Okay.
Incredible.
Yeah. So very horrific scene. The Red Cross was actually quick on the scene and took all the bodies out of the destroyed passenger car first, and they filled 3 morgues in and around Naperville with these.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah. Following this wreck, 4 different investigations ensued. First, actually, we'll go into the 4 different ones later, but First and foremost, the DuPage County coroner's inquest recommended that manslaughter charges be filed against the engineer for the explosion flyer. He was charged but not taken into custody as he was in the hospital at the time, but he wouldn't recover enough to be directly questioned in any of the investigations.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. They managed to clean the wreck up fairly quickly, and the triple track, what was known as the racetrack just outside Naperville, was running fairly quickly after the wreck. We can go into the next picture.
Ooh. Those are jagged, sort of sharp angles there, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty horrific. You can see the side swipe, the broken windows. One of the accounts said that there was a severed leg dangling out of one of the windows of one of the coaches. Like, it was pretty macabre.
You got a bunch of people standing on top of the car who are just like loafing around.
Yeah, those are just regular people. It doesn't even look like they're there for the wreck.
This like, hey kid, you want to see a dead body?
Oh yeah, of course I do.
You want to see a leg?
So let's go to the next slide. So here in the foreground, we have a 1915 built Northern Pacific heavyweight car. What does that mean necessarily? So these older cars were built out of riveted steel. In this case, it has an underframe that is made out of riveted steel that is then filled with cement. So this provided rigidity, much like a skyscraper, basically, but you hid
concrete,
all of the...
not cement. It's concrete.
Enlighten us about the difference.
Concrete has cement in it.
Yeah.
Concrete is cement, aggregate, water, add mixtures, and then you let it set. Cement is just what you make concrete out of.
Oh,
I'm I'm very precise about these terms because I went to university for this. I paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to know this.
Well, very proud of you. Alice sounds like she's gonna murder us.
I feel well. The thing is, I have two things in mind. First of all, I'm thinking of myself, who is very tired, and second of all, I'm thinking of Devon. Hi, Devon. How's it going? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we can look at this 1915 era built Northern Pacific heavyweight coach. These are the earlier ones. The typical heavyweight coach you see, or the Pullman sleepers, are built in the 20s. So you can see the little arches underneath the Northern Pacific lettering. There used to be beautiful stained glass in there, and in some cases, depending on the rebuild, they were entombed, and so when the cars were restored, they found the stained glass in them. However, obviously, this one was cut up for scrap right on the scene, as you would imagine. You can see the vestibule of the lightweight stainless steel coach on the right above that guy's head in the two-tone jacket, which is a bit scary. And you can see more loafers in and on top and around.
Yeah, there's like 20 people in this photo, and like 3 of them are working.
Yeah, and if we go to the next slide, you can see the
Alice. Smoke break.
Yeah, union jobs. You know,
this picture looks as if they're taking bodies out of the car. You can see there in center there's a white cloth of some sort. Is that what I think it is?
I have no idea. This looks like
probably,
at this point I'm tired enough that this looks like, name any one thing in this photo.
Yeah, right.
Alice, do you want to drop off and the 3 of us can
No, absolutely
sure.
not.
Just checking, bud.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's continue on to the next slide. So one of the major issues with this wreck was that it was a mix of old and new equipment. You can see that the Northern Pacific car pictured here, and also we talked about earlier, was the oldest in the consist, a 1915 era built Pullman, which was then 30 plus years old, which doesn't sound that old compared to some of the 60 or 70-year-old equipment that Amtrak still operates here and there, although most of the heritage stuff has been retired for new equipment.
But it came off better than a lot of the sort of lighter, more modern stuff, which is splashed across it.
It's interesting how like this roof has gone and peeled like fabric,
Yeah. It's a little disconcerting, to say the least. Heavyweight cars tended to fare quite good in derailments. This was before the reason why Pullman decided to build the concrete floored, steel sided Pullman heavyweights was following a 75 years of using complete wood construction on coaches, and I'm sure there's a podcast episode about passenger cars catching on fire whenever stoves would tip over, or telescoping into one another because the train would just ram through them. These cars helped reduce that. As seen here, telescoping can still occur. And that's one of the scary parts about it. Although you are safer in a heavyweight car, it was not a guaranteed safe place to be. The lightweight cars were actually fairly okay. The real problem was mixing the two together in the consist, which caused the lighter weight cars obviously to take more of the impact force and be far more damaged than some of their heavyweight counterparts. All right, let's look at the next slide. Here's another view. You can see some of the wonky equipment, the vestibule torn from the car in the center there. And it looks like some really old maintenance away cars, some wooden coaches with open vestibules on the left there.
Oh yeah, these guys look like they're from like the 1870s.
Yeah, easily. And the Q actually kept a lot of old maintenance away cars like that around for, hauling tools and material around. So you have all three eras of American passenger equipment in the 20th century right in one picture. So you can get an idea of the old wooden fire traps, the more resilient but still vulnerable steel, and the flexible lightweight cars. 4 separate investigations ensued. As we talked about, the coroner's office recommended manslaughter charges for the engineer. Then the second one. This is a really weird one, and not one I would imagine they do in the aviation industry. So the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy decided to take an identical consist with skilled engineers and recreate the disaster, but with a full brake application. So they took an entire...
What? Like not in a simulator? Not on
this is forensic files in real life, motherfucker. Get on board.
Not like on a test track.
No.
On the same...
No. The same piece of track after they repaired it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Just a really strong bet that this is like operator error. That fuck it, we'll do it again.
What did they totally engineer? Like, how did they pay him off to do this?
You're like the train equivalent of a test pilot. You've got the right stuff. You're Chuck Yeager. You're train Chuck Yeager.
Chuck Yeager. Train Yeager.
Yeah.
Or Casey Yeager in this case, if we want to mix railroad.
Casey Yeager. That's right. Yeah.
There we go. So yeah, this guy with balls of steel.
In like
oh my god!
Olive green flight suit and the engineer.
I would like to be the guy whose job it was on Friday to do the train crash on purpose.
Yeah, get a passing grade in train crash.
So the ICC document details how they did this, and it's freaking wild. So they parked the train exactly, the stop train ahead of the one that they were going to ram, exactly where the real one was originally in the wreck.
Fuck me.
They get the engine to exactly the same speed for the train that was to ram the stopped consist ahead of it. They apply the brakes in a full emergency brake application from the first red signal versus blowing through the red signal, right? And the train comes to a stop in less than 1 passenger car length from the back of this thing. Can you imagine? Can you imagine doing that test and you're behind the throttle and the head of the
CB&Q
I don't like
to imagine that.
Right. Stressful for anybody.
I think once you make it, though, you have kind of a job for life, if you didn't already.
Yeah.
But like,
this is Johnson. He's our train crasher.
Yeah.
So this is a way, the Q thought this is a smart way to make splashy headlines. It's like, look, this disaster could have avoided if you actually paid attention to the signals, which was true, but a very risky way to prove this. I love the DuPage County District Attorney, Lee Daniels. He said the railroad was, quote, rehearsing the evidence. And if that is not a title for a noir film, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing I think is, back in the day, publicity stunts used to be stunts, right?
Yeah,
not publicity.
It was absolutely wild. Could you imagine being trackside for that in the cab anywhere near this thing when they were playing around with it? Just nuts. So the third,
I would have been on a nearby rooftop with like eating some popcorn, drinking some beers,
Mm-hmm. And a 16 millimeter
this thing. Yeah,
my 16 millimeter movie camera.
Yeah, my dirt cheap 1940s Leica camera.
Yeah. So the third is the most important investigation and kind of the crux of this whole episode. So the Interstate Commerce Commission did a larger investigation on the wreck, focusing on the strength differences between heavyweight and lightweight cars and their effect on mixing the two types in one train. It also recommended automatic train stop guidelines, but we'll talk more on that later. And finally, the fourth investigation. The DuPage County grand jury found that though the railroad and some employees were negligent, no single act caused the wreck. Rather, the accident resulted in a combination from many factors. No indictments were made, and charges against the Expedition Flyers engineer were dropped.
Yeah, that's sort of a we want to forget about this now sort of thing.
Yeah.
To get out of a grand jury.
So I went through the original Interstate Commerce Commission ruling documents and found some little tidbits here. This is basically the abstract, and you can read through it. It's available online. It's kind of fascinating, but very copy burned, so it's kind of hard to read.
That's how you know it's a good document.
Exactly.
That means it's official. Yeah.
So from this accident, they determined that the track was good for 80 miles an hour posted speed limit. The Interstate Commerce Commission recommended 79 max for areas that were not equipped with any automatic train stop technology, so that if you blow past a red, it immediately goes into emergency. And a lot of railroads don't have that even today. They haven't even implemented ATS or any type of positive train control.
Don't need it. We put our faith in one very sleep-deprived guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same as this podcast.
Right. Waiting for a stoplight of some sort, which is absurd. Here's the distinction. They applied a 79 cap on speeds nationwide. Every railroad from A to Z was given this guideline. You cannot go faster unless you install these automatic train stop signaling requirements.
Oh, this is going to be one of those great pieces of railroad decision making where it's like 2 cents cheaper to just not do it.
They just don't do it. Yeah.
It's the classic, what was it, American Airlines olive removal thing?
Yeah.
So without getting into
What's
too
an
much
American Airlines olive removal thing?
Oh, so American Airlines saved like some number of millions, and not a small number, by removing one olive from each of their like salads.
Oh,
on the basis that you wouldn't notice the extra olive, but it adds up pretty quickly.
So unlike modern congressional things that are forcing railroads to upgrade to new technology that is actually considered new, the ICC actually took a rather moderate stance. The inductive automatic train stop system had been around since the 1920s. It's basically magnet on side of track. Locomotive has magnetic anomaly detector on the side of the truck of the locomotive. If it goes past it and it is energized, the electromagnet, it immediately kicks it into emergency stop. That's as simple as it gets. So you run left, right. Yeah.
They had stuff even simpler than that well before that, like in the 1890s. The Pennsylvania Railroad had a system where there was literally like a glass bulb on top of the locomotive, and if you went under a stop signal, there was a lever that dropped down from the stop signal, broke the bulb, and the bulb let the air pressure escape from the system and caused an automatic emergency brake application.
It's like a physical interlock between a signal and a train. That's so cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty smart, honestly. So this all turned into some grandstanding. Let's also put some perspective in here. The general public's view of railroading after World War II had bumped them off of their trains in favor of troop movements and other inconveniences. Like, of course, we had a war to fight. Duh. But, your average Joe trying to get to go see grandma was more or less inconvenienced throughout the entire war to always, not travel.
Why are you trying to see grandma instead of landing on the beaches at Anzio, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. So the general public was pretty sour on the railroads for many, many reasons, from everything from financial finagling to bad service to all sorts of things. So the will was not in favor of like, oh, yes, let's all band together to make this concerted safety improvement. The airlines, which were nascent at the time, of course, it was all propeller driven at the time. Prop liners, DC-3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, and your Lockheed Constellations, all that sort of thing. They took it as an opportunity, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But it was the combination of some lobbying efforts by them, and also seeing the writing on the wall with the railroads, and also wanting to stick it to them. There was also planning of interstate highways, and not just the classic one that we always talk about, but the New Jersey Turnpike is a pre-war project. So is the I-10 Pasadena Freeway. So this idea of having a national network of roads sounded like more of an appealing thing than trying to get these horrible railroads to get their shit together. So this culminates in the next slide. In the end, though, the embattled engineer was absolved of any major blame by both the ICC and the DuPage County Grand Jury. In an October verdict, the latter declined to take action against the Burlington Railroad or for the crews of the train, instead charging everyone involved with 9 quote-unquote negligent acts, ranging from improper scheduling to poor intercommunication between conductors. Rule change as follows. In 1951, the ICC mandated that trains were only permitted to exceed 79 miles per hour if automatic train stop equipment was in place, and most rail agencies didn't mix cars of different weights on the same train, the heavyweight versus lightweight thing. So now we're into epilogue mode. What happened after this ICC ruling?
About to say, this is one of your infamous unfunded mandates, which has resulted in really bad outcomes on the railroads, basically forever.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about big picture railroading, we can look in the next slide at the pretty Santa Fe War Bonnet F7. Yeah, think about it this way. In the 19th century, the robber barons robbed the U.S. government absolutely fucking blind. And the 20th century was the government retribution for that. So the ICC ruled in 51 that trains traveling 80 miles an hour above or more were to have automatic cab signaling or automatic train stop or some sort of train control system. Only the Santa Fe implemented inductive automatic ATS as prescribed after the incident. Nobody else, not a single other Class 1 railroad in the United States or Canada, decided to implement this because nobody decided it was a worthwhile expense. In an interesting move, the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy, the railroad involved in this accident, decided that instead of implementing inductive ATS, that they upgraded their track on all the other parts of the system so they could run 79 miles an hour over the entire route. And
you come up to the lowest common denominator. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And weirdly enough, the schedules barely changed. So they just upgraded some of the slower routes and the schedule improved. So it was such a weird maneuver just not to have to put the system in place. The Santa Fe was the only railroad that implemented it afterwards, and they ran well above 90 miles an hour in scheduled freight and passenger service west of the Mississippi. Now, they weren't the first, since this technology, as I said, was a couple decades old. There are a couple of other installations of inductive ATS, and those were on the New York Central's water level route, the Southern Railway's main line in the south, and the Chicago Northwestern commuter routes out of Chicago. So literally within visual sight of where this wreck is another railroad using the system, the safety system. The mind boggles.
I love standardization,
Yeah.
So yeah, the Santa Fe prospered with the higher mainline speeds, was able to reduce their transcontinental Chicago to Los Angeles train schedules by, I think they shaved over 10 hours off of their schedule by implementing ATS and just constantly improving their track and main line. So there's an alternative future that could have happened for some of these railroads if they decided to spend a goddamn dollar on what they were doing. Let's go to the next slide. Predictably, regional airlines flourished after this decision. As part of reconversion, after World War II, aircraft manufacturers like Douglas, Boeing, Convair, and Lockheed benefited from filling in a regional aircraft market, still flooded at the time using World War II-era DC-3s. While finding the DCC replacement in itself is a future, well, there's your problem episode, let's be honest, the airlines grew, and with the network of interconnected local, regional, and long-distance passenger trains eroded almost completely after World War II in a slow decline. Eventually, passenger service fragmented so badly, there wasn't even a single daily train between most major American cities, let alone medium and small-sized cities that once built up around the railroad depot in every single one of them 70 years before.
I mean, listen, the good news is those regional airlines are going to stay around forever, and that's going to preserve sort of like passenger transport between those sort of medium to small cities, right?
And they're completely safe. There's never been a problem with the DC-3.
No, or this Convair. Yeah. And especially no problems with this twin-engined Convair we have on the screen. Yeah. None at all. So, and that's kind of an interesting plane there. It was a Rolls-Royce Dart-powered Convair. That's an interesting turboprop. At any rate, the other picture I was going to use in this slide was an Allegheny Convair, which eventually became U.S. Air, which is now the world's largest airline, apparently. Wow. Go figure. Let's go on to the next slide. Passenger service, split between the Western Pacific, the Rio Grande, and the Burlington, continued after the 1949 cancellation of the Expedition Flyer. The newly designed, all-bud, lightweight-built, legendary California Zephyr started in 1949 and continued in pretty much great quality until 1970. Here it is crossing the hills not too far away from where the first wreck of the Expedition Flyer was. This is over near Livermore. The wreck was over between Sunol and Pleasanton, so less than 10 miles away. The Zephyr is probably one of the finest American passenger trains in history, and it deserves respect. It was a very great operation. Let's go on to the next slide. The Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy fared well into the 1960s. Note the E5s here in this picture have been bumped down to express freight service. Eventually, the head of the CB&Q conspired to cook its own books to make it appear as if the still very profitable and very nicely appointed Zephyrs, which ran to most corners of its system, were losing money. This ruse worked, and most services were terminated by the Interstate Commerce Commission by the 1960s. Not long before the Burlington Northern merger, with the Chicago, Burlington, Quincy being part of that, and Amtrak were to change the entire landscape. So things didn't work out so badly for the Q. Like it was a well-run railroad that managed to scrape together one of the better mergers of the 20th century. The Burlington Northern was
and then lie to the government about it.
Yeah. But they flatly cooked the books, and they got caught. Well, they got caught after they had finished the whole thing, and they got a slap on the wrist for it, which is freaking hilarious. The Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy's passenger service, especially the Zephyr Express service, was profitable until the day they killed it. It allowed everybody along the lines in the Midwest in which it served to have fast and frequent service between all of those little secondary and tertiary cities with Chicago. It was fantastic. It's a shame that it died before Amtrak.
Well, this is also like a common story on a lot of railroads, as they cooked the books to make the passenger trains seem like they were making a lot less money than they were, because you could do that, and in fact you could do that in a way that was tax advantageous.
Sounds about right.
You know, especially if you fudge the numbers on how much wear and tear on the tracks is coming from the passenger trains versus the freight trains.
Yeah, my favorite corrupt story is with the Southern Pacific, because some of the best corruption comes from the Southern Pacific Railroad.
Yes.
In the 1960s, the head of the Southern Pacific sent a secret memo to all the travel agent and booking agencies in California in a bid to kill the Lark. What they said, basically, it was an overnight train between San Francisco and LA, which would be super useful today, let's be honest. They said to the booking agents, from now on, if somebody wants to travel on the Lark, tell them the train is full and suggest the daylight instead so we can kill off that train. They followed suit. The numbers plummeted immediately to 1/10 of the daily ridership that it was before. And the ICC was like, well, guess it's losing money. You can cancel that. And they did. Love that chicanery. And as a final,
fantastic.
And the final bon mot in the slide there. In 2014, artist Paul Kuhn was commissioned to create a sculpture to commemorate the wreck with the questionable title of Tragedy to Triumph.
Wow. I love art grants. More like fart grants.
Yeah, it's not much there. Not sure what the wheel sets and that family kind of recoiling in horror. Yeah. I'm not. There's a whole artist statement on the centurywalk.org link that we can put in the description.
About his fucking thing.
It's very municipal art, and I say that's sort of derogatory.
We need to put something here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The funny thing is, the art was inspired by a book that somebody did about this wreck. So go figure. And that concludes the Naperville wreck of 1946.
All right. On this
show. What did we learn?
Oh, fucking
don't mix your generations of cars.
Well, airplanes can go 550, but trains have to go 79. Ridiculous. Let the trains go 550. If your uterus shakes out, your uterus shakes out. You'll be all right.
Never trust railroads to, obey regulation in the spirit to which it's intended. You have to write it to be watertight.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the takeaway I wanted folks to have from this is, when you're writing regulation for railroads, these are big corporations.
They will find a way to get around it. They can't wait to violate it.
They have lots of lawyers. They have lots of money. And they have lots of ways to run their system worse that they don't give a fuck about you, so they will just do that. Right?
They're waiting for you to give them a reason to run the railroad worse than they already are.
And this is an example where the Interstate Commerce Commission came in and said, you have to install this technology or run your train slower. And they were like, well, I guess we're going to run the train slower. And the National Passenger Railroad Network suffered greatly as a result, because all of a sudden these trains were not as competitive with driving or with airlines than they were before, because again because the speed limit was lower and no one was any safer as a result. Ultimately, this is not like a not so much a question of is it actually safer to go 79 miles an hour versus 110. I mean, but you have these regulations where it's like you need to install these safety mechanisms or do this other thing.
It will pick the
railroad will do the other thing. I mean, another very timely example is the electronically controlled pneumatic brake mandate that certain folks are pushing for DOT and FRA to go through. The actual text of that was, you either need to install this braking system or you need to limit the train to 30 miles an hour.
Which they will happily do. They don't give a fuck.
They would definitely do that, yeah. So this is part of I don't know. This is one of the first, I think, examples of one of these situations where railroads egregiously and flagrantly and so on and so forth violated the spirit of the law, and it resulted in not one of the first examples. I mean, they do this constantly, but I can't think of one of the most iconic examples.
One of the most iconic examples.
We all suffered for it. And, this is why I'm kind of cynical about regulating the railroads, because I think, if you want actual change to occur, you got to nationalize them. You got to have them actually run in the public interest.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's time for USRA 3/Conrail 2. Honestly, when I was talking with an author, a railroad historian, about this the other day, and he posited an interesting idea, and that any place that we should run passenger equipment, it should also be owned by the government for freight as well. So if you take the skeletal Amtrak network, for instance, you purchase all that from underneath those railroads, and then you create a bonanza of smaller class ones from all the lines that are not part of that skeletal system. And any time that we want to increase passenger service on a particular line, the government buys it, upgrades the line to 125 or better, and then inaugurates both freight and passenger service on that line, which is now well maintained, well operated, and well, just better quality than anything that we've managed to do in the 21st century when it comes to railroading.
Yeah, I'm still very much. I work under the one big railroad theory. I think that's the way to go.
Yep.
Yeah, if possible, absolutely. The one I propose is probably a half step towards one large national network. A nationalized network would be phenomenal for many, many, many reasons, and probably save so much. Like we see the bad example with British Rail and the Beeching Acts and blah, blah, blah. Everybody who lived through the 1960s in Britain bitches about it. And rightfully so in a lot of cases, let's be honest. But we look at the positive example, which was Conrail. They rationalized overly competitive network in which like 4 railroads were coming into some tiny ass town to serve 1.5 industries, and rationalize it down to one main line with spurs that go to all the, the producers and industries that were necessary, maintaining the track all the while, buying new equipment when it was needed, upgrading things that didn't,
I would say with some reservations, British Rail is a much better example of how these things should be run than Conrail was.
Yeah.
Yes. I could see that as well. What positive examples would you want to highlight?
Positive example? Well, it'd be like the SBB in Switzerland. That's the one.
I hate to cut this short, but Alice is dying. We need to wrap this bitch up.
I'm fine. But yes, also shut up.
We have a segment on this podcast.
I heard the Alice no snort sigh, and I was like, oh, my baby's tired. I feel that. I ate and I don't feel tremendous. So let's do safety third.
We have a segment on this podcast called Safety Third.
Got a 50-50 chance of this being the right drop.
Shake hands for danger.
Hey, I made it. What was the other one?
Yeah. What was it? Piss?
No, it's Rich Piana saying dick, but like at a distance.
Oh, I heard piss. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
a yellow flagger, they call me.
That too.
Hi from New Zealand.
There's a lost Johnny Cash song.
Hi from New Zealand.
I could be wrong. Get out.
Yeah. I haven't heard you guys cover any food industry related incidents on the segment before.
Whatever it is, I don't like it already.
All right.
No, I'm sure we have problems.
We have talked about the meat deck.
That's true. That was certainly that was food.
I work in the deli section of a supermarket. Although, to be honest, I think calling it a deli is a bit of a stretch. One of the main things that this deli sells is sliced meat, which obviously they slice, which they slice in store. Right? Yes. To do this, we used an industrial meat slicer. I was going to try and get a photo of one for you, but my supervisor yells at anyone who has their phone on them when working. So I've included. Apologize for that.
No, it wasn't even me that time. Yeah.
So I included a photo of a similar model and a screenshot from one of your American OSHA guides on meat slicer safety that I found while searching for the first image. I think its title sums up things pretty decently. That's preventing cuts and amputations from food slicers and meat grinders.
Ugh. I mean, I'm in favor of preventing them. I'll say that.
Basically, this thing's an extremely sharp metal disc that spins really fast, and the same bit of meat gets pushed across the blade over and over again until the whole thing's been turned into shaved ham that we can sell for roughly $6 more than it's actually worth.
I'm remembering the tweet here that's like, this is an unholy blend of the meat of 7 different animals. This is sort of beyond the sight of God. We also have a low sodium version if you prefer that,
That sounds delicious.
yeah, right?
In other words, the machine that's designed to cut through flesh and small bits of bone very quickly without stopping at all. And using it requires you to put your hands and fingers near it, which isn't a great combination. Officially, we're meant to wear chainmail gloves when using knives or operate
gloves. Nice.
Yeah.
I am the knight of the meat counter.
Yes. Yeah.
To the tune of
there's an ad like that going around for Jersey Mike's right now.
Yeah.
None shall pass.
Officially, we're meant to wear chainmail gloves when using knives or operating the finger remover machine, but most people find those annoying and don't bother. I'm sure this hasn't been helped by the fact our former department manager, who also gave the extremely limited safety training for the machine, would straight up tell you that the gloves were a waste of time and inefficient.
Cool. What is someone like creaking some old wood, or is that just a really loud mouse wheel?
No, there's definitely
a rocking
there.
chair. What?
I'm sorry, guys. I have to talk about old train stuff in an old rocking
I don't have my
chair.
hands anywhere near my mouse or keyboard.
Yeah.
I'm so okay.
It was me. I'm sorry.
At the time of the incident, I was probably the only person in that place that actually used the chainmail gloves. I was also the only one of us who hadn't been fully trained to operate the slicer. On a particularly difficult shift, when both of these people who usually operate the slicer were off sick, the aforementioned supervisor, who likes yelling at people, told me to slice some ham.
Oh no. The ham was going to be his junk.
Yeah.
I'm scared to slice the ham.
Although I tried to tell him I didn't actually know how the machine worked, he wasn't hearing any of it. I was very tired.
Yeah, imagine that. Yeah.
And I'd already been told off by management after he got mad at me once before, and I didn't want to lose my job, so I caved in and abandoned my right to refuse unsafe work.
Here's a tip from our podcast to yours. Don't do that if you can help it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you're really sleepy, because you know what really wakes you up is losing a finger, right?
This is true, yeah. Well, until the blood loss puts you back to sleep. Yeah.
You're very awake for a minute, but it's not like a good way of being awake.
It's not a good minute, yeah. Well, I was pretty worried about using the machine. I did my best and started to think I might be getting the hang of it. Then my hand slipped, and my fingers ended up pushed towards the blade.
Oh, no.
Now, the long story short is I'm very, very glad I stuck with the gloves. The ends of one of them, they were too big for my hands and hung off the ends of my fingers a bit. I don't know why I'm yawning so much. I'm not even tired.
No, that's me. I'm just dragging you all down.
Yeah. They ended up caught between the blade and the rest of the machine, meaning my hand was stuck, and the blade kept grinding itself against the glove while my hand was trapped against it. I had to shout to the only other person on the shift, my dickhead of a supervisor, to turn the machine off because the switch was on the other side of the machine to my free arm and I couldn't actually reach it. Now, he even had the nerve to tell me off afterwards when I'd finally extracted my hand from the machine and then said that we shouldn't write it up in the internal health and safety incident reports because one employee being stupid isn't worth telling management about. Now, arguably, what I did was stupid, yes, but I'm pretty sure the stupidest thing I did was do what he was telling me to do when I had no way of knowing how to use the machine.
Oh, no.
At the end of the day, I didn't get injured thanks to the gloves that no one else wears, but I'm still so angry at that arsehole for the whole thing, and I've pretty much become that guy at work who's a total nerd, pestering everyone to follow safety procedures around the Amputator Tron 3000.
Because, can I read this next slide?
Yeah.
Because Jesus motherfuck do I not want to find out what would have happened if I hadn't been.
That's a beautiful sentence.
Yes.
True.
As a last note, since then I've noticed that my supervisor has started wearing the chainmail gloves when he uses the slicer.
It's an unspoken victory, the sweetest kind.
Yes. Thank you so much for your podcast and for giving me something to listen to while I'm at break at work. You're all awesome. All the best, Pat.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you. Them, Pat.
They, them, Pat.
Thank you, they, them, Pat.
All right. Okay. Miles, if the people want more Miles, where can they find more Miles?
Our next episode will be on the Chernobyl disaster.
We're wrapping this bitch up.
Shake hands with danger.
Does anyone have any commercials before we go?
Listen to Trash Future. Listen to Kill James Bond. Listen to There's Your Problem.
Where Miles? Where more Miles?
Where be Miles?
You can find more Miles on YouTube at YouTube Interurban Era, or you can find me on Patreon at patreon.com/Interurban Era. Links hopefully in the description.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Bob. All right. Good night.
That was a podcast.
We did it. Did we keep it under 2?
Did we keep it under 2?
We kept it under 2.
We kept it under 2. I was very tired.